everybody, what's going on? I'm Jamie Gaughan, your revolutionary astrologer, bringing you your celestial wisdom for the week of October 4th, all the way through the 10th. And this is an interesting time because, one, I'm recording this now the first day that Mercury has stationed and moved retrograde. So that's going to be a big theme for this week. But we also have a new moon in Libra, and this particular new moon is canoodling with Mars. So we're going to talk about how this energy is going to be working us this week, influencing it. The planets don't make us do anything, but if you're sensitive like myself and you're paying attention to how energy just flows and changes, then you can work with the way in which these planets translate some of that energy for us. So I'm using astrology as another language or tool to be able to talk about what energetically, emotionally, psychologically you may be working with. Now, we are working again with Mercury retrograde, but it's trining Jupiter in Aquarius. And as it is retrograding and making this trine, it also, the sun is in Libra as well, and it is opposing Chiron in Aries. And so I would imagine that this week in particular is going to have a lot of communication around healing, around the things that maybe the teacher inside of us gets active. Now, when we're working with retrograding planets like Mercury and Jupiter are both retrograde right now, then a lot of stuff is more internalized, but that doesn't mean that things don't happen externally for us. It just often means that we may feel it more personally, or that maybe those psychic hits, which is something I want to point out, do pay attention when you get information that shows up out of the blue. This kind of retrograding air sign is all about the clairvoyancy. So you may get visions. You may have a moment where something just suddenly rushes across your screen. I will tell you, when Mercury stationed retrograde early this morning, I was up and I went to the gym and I lost chunks of time. And that is something that can happen often during a retrograde period. And it really reminds me, I need to be grounded. I need to be fully present, but it's so easy to get scattered and feel scattered in the mind, especially, and it can run off and you don't even know where you went. So not good if you're driving, just saying. So bringing that back to what we may be experiencing this week around the teacher, we're having experiences externally for us to respond to that we can hopefully use our past experiences to show up differently for the current experiences. And so that means that if you're working through a relationship dynamic, because we're dealing with Libra, and you're working with socializing, you're working with expanding your mind through experiences, this is a time where it may be more internal first, and then it gets translated externally. Or an external circumstance shows up and it drives you deeper inside of yourself so that you may be overthinking. There can be abundance of ideas and no real anchor point to it. And that it could make you feel overwhelmed if you're not careful. Now, it's easy during this time to find some internal confidence and hopefully convincing yourself that you really do value, you do have value and you do have good ideas and they do need to be shared. And I would say that this is such a powerful week for completing things. And the reason that I say that, again, is this new moon with Mars. And the sun and moon will be canoodling with Mars in Libra. And normally new moons, we don't do a lot of actions. However, the 6th and 7th here, and that's when those dates are, is that we're going to be feeling this energy of Mars, which is the activator, if you will. Mars is is that driving force. It's the fuel. It's the fire. It's the god of war, but it's also the protector of the realm. And so here it is, Mars in Libra, really more passive aggressive. However, that assertion comes through the motivation of trying to create a win-win situation, of trying to negotiate things. So you may find yourself this week working with an old subject matter, an old relationship that's come back from the past, and you're reworking it to be able to get on the same page. And the driving force is that you want something new in your life. That's what this new moon is about. You want a new type of relationship. Now, with Mars involved, it could make us a little more passive aggressive than usual. And it may be that this is a great time to practice nonviolent communication. So if there is an issue, let's say, for instance, I have a small group of friends and a couple of them have sort of fallen across the, off the wayside. They've fallen away, not really communicating very well. And I'll just be transparent. It triggers my abandonment stuff because I think we all have that, right? And this feeling of rejection. And so I watched myself work through some anger, some feelings of fear, some, all those emotions that go along with something like that. And now the opportunity is for me to first work with the wounding. This is that sun opposing Chiron. Then this new moon energy invites me, how do I want to approach this? And create a win-win. And the win-win might be, hey, listen, my expectations were too high for what I needed in this friendship. So we need to revisit that. And maybe it's just a matter of you do your thing, I'll do mine, and maybe we'll connect down the road. It's possible that could happen. Now, I'm going to bob and weave between the Mercury retrograde trining Jupiter because it's going to make 3 passes with this trine during the retrograde season to Jupiter. And I think the new moon is definitely worth talking about a little bit more. But we also have Venus moving into Sagittarius right after this new moon. So, and Pluto stationing and going direct. So I definitely want to talk about that because Venus in Sagittarius gives us a carefree, lighter feeling when we're working with our values, when we're working in relationships. So if you need to have that important conversation, maybe wait until Venus moves into Sagittarius because Venus in Scorpio is going to go for the jugular. Whereas Venus in Sagittarius is like, hey, let's have some friendly competition, work it out that way, and may the best person win, And with Pluto moving direct, it may give you that extra boost of power that you didn't even know was there, that extra courage to be able to make a declaration, to be able to share what it is that you ultimately are feeling. This is a really positive time for relationships if there is a romance in particular that you're wanting to maybe feel a little more secure in, or you want to talk about what's really going on between the two of you. This gives you the courage to be able to do it. Now, on this new moon as well, we're most likely going to be looking at seeds of intention that we want to plant that have real propulsive force. Meaning this is not just I really hope it, this is I'm going to make this happen, that drive is going to be there. This is a much more active new moon. Most of us will agree, new moons are not really the time for action. They're the time for contemplation to pull within. However, this one feels to me as though there's nothing but action behind it, and that we may have to watch ourselves pull in, that we may have to intentionally pull back because it's going to be very easy with Mercury trining Mercury trining Jupiter and Mars canoodling with the sun and moon. I have a feeling it's going to be very easy for us to either do the whole verbal processing and maybe it's not the right time, or it's like, I just have to say this and I need to get it off my chest because remember, information is power, especially during all this air season. And what happens when we don't have information? We make assumptions. When we make assumptions, we feel out of control. When we feel out of control, we don't always make the best decisions, right? Or it can create anxiety. So that's the other thing with this particular week. The intensity of the mind is going to be up. So do watch how you process information. You may have this drive to learn something new. Buy those books. Now that increases spending. Venus and Sagittarius are spending you can go up. Why? Because Venus in Sagittarius needs to learn through experience and it needs to expand its horizons. How do you do that? You need options. How do you get options? Well, Venus rules values. You want to know what somebody values? Watch where they spend their money. That means what? Maybe some long distance trips. Maybe there's some plane tickets that are getting bought, vacations being planned, and maybe there's an expansion of your business. And so you're having to invest in some sort of IT, but Mercury's retrograde. So there could be delays and hiccups. Just saying. So it creates all this like mental activity to try and figure out these options and solutions, and then wanting to create a win-win situation, but not everybody's on the same page. So you have to have those conversations. Am I making sense? I hope so. So what do you do? This is my practical mind coming in. What do you do with this kind of energy for this week? Pause, ground, breathe, speak with intention. Ask yourself the 3 questions that I love so much. I believe it was Susie Orman that coined these 3, but is it good? Is it true? Is it necessary? If you can't say yes to all 3 of them, you may need to pause and take a break before taking action. The challenge this week is about feeling and thinking something in particular and wrestling it to the ground. You can't let it go until you have some form of control over it. And that could show up being very forceful in the way in which we speak to each other, or forcing our opinion, forcing the way in which something is supposed to be. And so if that happens, then we can damage the relationship. So I'm going to offer, see if you are working too much on the anxiety excitement level, and see if you can't bring it back into balance, because we're dealing with Libra. Libra likes balance. So we don't want it too serious. We also don't want it too light. So those are the kind of things we're going to be working with. One other piece that I feel this week can offer, I get good news. When you've got Mercury trining Jupiter, there could be some great news. Luck can be on your side, but it may be good news behind the scenes. Maybe you're negotiating something behind the scenes, and then after the new moon, you're ready to announce the good news and celebrate. And I just feel like some of you are going to have some things to celebrate besides just a birthday for Libras. All right, you guys, I really hope that this helps. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. I want to hear how it's going. I see new job offers and deepening of relationships and some good news happening on legal fronts for you. So I want to hear, I want to celebrate. I love when good things happen to good people. All right, you guys, have such a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Find me at jamiedawn.com. Take care.